to South Carolina. I got a couple of friends down there, and I've got some problems down there.
We were just down there for my daughter's college. Okay. So I would like to call to order the ARB meeting for tonight, Wednesday, June 21st. July 21st, sorry. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 So please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next thing on the, so we are at citizens' time. Would anybody like to speak for citizens' time that does not have an active application? No. Okay, so next thing on the agenda is minute approval. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from our regular meeting on June 16th, 2021?
Sure. I move the Architecture Review Board approve the work session minutes of June 16th, 2021 as presented.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. If the minutes are accepted, we will now move on to agenda items.
Do we need the 16th as well? Or do we do both? I just moved the work session.
Oh, the works, oh.
We need the regular.
I'm sorry, I should have done both. Madam Chair, I'd also like to move that the ARB approve the regular meeting minutes of June 16th, 2021 as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so our first agenda item is the appointment of our chair for the ARB. So each year, we reappoint our chair and vice chair. So at this time, if there's any nominations for a chairperson, the floor is open.
We can just nominate
Mm-hmm.
Sheridan again.
You can.
I nominate Sheridan.
Okay. Do you accept?
I do.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay. If there's no other nominations, I will do a roll call vote. Okay. So Lorson,
Aye.
King,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Hallett.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it again.
And I don't have it on here, but I would also like to do an appointment of a vice chair.
Okay.
So do I have an appointment for vice chair, nomination for vice chair?
I would like to nominate Susie Lorson.
Okay, do you accept?
I accept.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, we'll do a roll call. Lorson,
Aye.
King,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Hallett.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations. Welcome back. So Sheridan, I will let you take it back over.
Okay, so our second agenda item is the demolition application for 6712 Jefferson Street.
Okay, so I would like to start off, we're on packet page 8 with the report. So 6712 Jefferson Street, so that everyone is aware, several months back, there was a zoning determination request regarding the use of a second home structure on the property and the request for building permits. This determination went to the Board of Zoning Appeals and the determination was overturned. Town Council held a meeting and discussion, and they are pursuing an appeal at the court level. However, in a meeting with our town attorney, myself, and Mr. Gonzalez, we had a discussion where the town attorney recommended, if it was amenable to the property owners and they signed off on the application, that Mr. Gonzalez could apply for a demolition permit for one of the structures located on the property. So that is where we're at today. We have this demolition request in front of us, and I have gone through the assessment of the structure based on my typical town planner report. It is one of the listed historic structures. It is listed in our comprehensive contributing resource inventory list as the Baker Bean House. The structures in our contributing resources list, typically the names of them are given based on the family that owned it the longest or had references back to a family name, so that is where this name comes from. It is located at the corner of Jefferson and Payne. It is roughly 1940s home, and I can answer any questions at this time if the ARB has any, or I can keep going through. Any questions?
I'll have questions later, but not right now.
Yeah. It's
Later?
same.
Okay. So further down on page 11, I have listed out the demolition guidelines for the ARB. These are the guidelines with the special instructions for historic structures to take into consideration and discuss with the board tonight, as well as the applicant. The applicant has supplied a brief written narrative as to why the demolition permit has been requested. I myself, as staff, have a couple questions for the applicant to answer. And they have also supplied photographs of the interior of this structure. And I am sure that they can answer any questions and speak to these photos as well. So with that, I did put in here that a recommendation is to review the report and go through the materials provided, ask our questions, potentially set up a visit to the site if the board feels that it is amenable, and then based on where our discussion leads us tonight, we can go from there. So if you guys have any questions for me now, let me know. Otherwise, we can call up the applicant and have them present to us their narrative and the photographs. Then we know. Okay.
Let's start there.
If you guys, I don't know if Mr. Gonzalez is, you gonna, okay. Mr. Gonzalez, if you would like to just present, let me get you a microphone. You can present your kind of narrative and findings of why you want to request the demolition permit. They have in their packet all of the photos that were submitted, so you can speak to those as well and they can follow along.
Good evening. Thank you. I will. Good evening, Chairwoman King, ARB members. My name is Bonaventure Gonsalves. I have the intention of purchasing the Bean property. The intention was to purchase them as is with the two houses on the property as it stands. However, as I go through, you will see, I'm requesting the ARB to grant a COA for the demolition of the 1940 1.5-story dwelling located at the corner of Jefferson and Payne. Like I said, I was originally going to rehab and sell both properties, but after receiving the zoning determination from the town stated that the 1988 structure was legal, but the use of a dwelling was not. The zoning determination was then appealed to the BZA, where it was overturned. The BZA overturned the zoning determination and agreed with the homeowners that one structure was legal conforming and the other was legal but non-conforming. The town council, as Emily stated, then decided to file suit in Prince William County Circuit Court in hopes to overturn the BZA decision. Mr. Krim, the town attorney, sent a letter to the Beans on June 2nd where he stated that the purchaser intends to remove one of the houses that would resolve the zoning issue, and I have a copy of that letter if you would like to take a look at it. I then had a meeting with the town attorney and the town planner, Ms. Lockhart, on Tuesday, June 22nd, where we reached an agreement to demo the 1940 structure, noting that it did not have any historic significance except for the age, and to keep the 1988 dwelling facing Payne Lane. In that meeting, it was stated that we would need to fill out a COA for demolition, and hence why I am here today. The house is in poor condition, as you can see by the photographs in your packet. The structural integrity has been compromised through the foundation and structural framing supports. And as suggested, I'd be happy to tour the space with you if you would like. That's all I have.
So when I took a look through all of the detail earlier, and even though this is my going on second year, I still feel fairly new to this process, and haven't been involved in some of the prior decisions that have been made, but am trying to remain consistent with some of the guidelines and some of the determinations that have been made in the past. So that was one of my questions as I look through the demolition guidelines, and I have a bit of knowledge about the demolition permit that was granted not too long ago for another house in town. So my question is, have we gone through kind of the same steps just to make sure that all of these steps have been worked through before we would make our final determination? So I would want to have a site visit. I think that's something that we would need to do at a minimum. And then, I mean, we can kind of go through, I know you have some questions too, but same kind of process. I would want to know a little bit more about, and you've shared about the reasons for demolition, but, you know, were there any other considerations, and are there alternatives that are not feasible? I know building is your background, but is there, it might make sense to have another professional kind of provide a statement on the structural integrity. I know we had that done for another property as well. And I did have a question about, you know, how we look at the historical denotation. Do we know, I know from a guideline, it's listed on here in terms of the historic structures and how we kind of view that in terms of what the town looks like. Do we know, have we gone through kind of that process just to vet, to go walk through any other kind of historical significance so we can make sure that we vetted that piece? I mean, those are, I'm a step follower, so just want to go through all of those, I think, before we would make a final determination.
Ms. King, if I may. So in the meeting with the town attorney and with the town planner, they both felt that the only historic significance it had was the age, and it was not tied into any history of the town, so to say. You know,
do we know, did we go back and look? I know that there are, like, an original survey, any kind of architectural description that was done originally that might be in the town files?
So those items would need to be researched. We can have someone, our assistant, go over to the Relic Library in Prince William County and research the property through the Relic historic files to include locating a survey. Those surveys were done in early 2000s, I believe it was, for a lot of the structures.
Right.
So we can try to locate if a survey was done for that house.
And just so you know, when I had the intent of purchasing the property, I did have a surveyor come out. They did a land survey on the property, and nothing came up any significance in that survey, and I have attached that survey to the paperwork I submitted.
Sure, I have a couple questions. Comments, that's okay. First of all, I apologize, I'm checking my phone, I'm shuffling kids around to different activities tonight, so I apologize, I'm looking at my cell phone. So, my recollection of sort of the town's historic district is that the town burned after the Civil War, so there's no structures that have necessarily a famous person, place, or thing associated with them. It's more of the eclectic architecture that has developed with the town over time. So I do not have the vocabulary to describe. It looks more like a Cape Cod, but it's just more of, my understanding is when it was listed in as contributing resources, it more had to do with the architectural style than it did have to have with a particular event or person. The Bakers are also tied to this. I'd be interested if the Beantown, any history of the family before it or anything like that we can take an oral history of. Other question I have is, Emily, the arrangement that the attorney has come to with the applicant's representative, are we under any obligation to honor that, or any?
That is something I would need to follow up with our attorney on.
Okay.
And you said you do have a copy of that letter?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Make a copy of it, please.
Absolutely.
So the challenge I see that we're in is that our criteria does not involve you negotiating a separate zoning issue, so it sort of puts a pickle on us based on our criteria and what we evaluated on. You did say you originally wanted to rehab both, and that would have been the ideal situation.
Absolutely.
The survey that you provided, did you feel, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but some of the deficiencies you found in your photographs, had you been able to redevelop both of those, would you have felt you would have been able to overcome it?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, it would be, based on those photographs, it would be extensive. But sure, I mean, that's the business we're in.
But the idea is if you could get value out of both structures, that would be enough
That
to
would be the optimum, yes, sir.
be enough to reinvest into the property to make it work. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Ideally for this board, being able to keep them both would be, and so I understand the position that you're in and the preference for you to do that. I am the council liaison, although I was not in the closed session that was part of the decision to take it to court. But I can certainly go back to the council and say, hey, this sort of negotiation has put us in a bind where we would otherwise have an opportunity to rehabilitate what's listed as an architecturally contributing structure to the town if it wasn't for this situation, and see if there's other alternatives or other ways with which to address your issue. Is that something you'd be willing to consider, to give us the opportunity to go back and plead our case as to why the preference to meet the town's policies is to try to reuse both? That may be a moot point, but is that something, and at the same time, we can do the site visit next month?
Sure.
I would agree with Chair King that what we've seen before is more description of the structure itself, so the ability to find, I believe we did the phase, it was like a reconnaissance survey. We have an inventory of a majority of the buildings in the district that give the general vernacular. You talk about the style, the general description, the dimensions, so that if the building was to come down and a new structure was to be built, we have reference with which to consult you on any new structures to say, hey, can you incorporate these elements of the old structure? But we need photographs and we need documentation to be able to provide that. So consistent with before, a more complete photographic inventory would be helpful, I would believe. I'm going more into suggestions now than questions, if that's okay. We talked about it being listed on the, so I'm sorry, so we have a new member tonight, so I'm going to explain a little bit. In addition to Emily's doing the comp plan, we have, as Chair King said, we have the list of contributing structures. We also have a zoning ordinance criteria that says anything over 50 years old is sort of a blanket to say anything over 50 years old, you have to get a demo permit. So there's like two levels. There's the first level of everything over 50, and then there's a second list of structures that are specific. But a lot of times people will sort of mistake that history as it has to be a person, place, or event that has some value, but that's not the case because the town burned down. So what we have not been able to do over time is have a lot of good documentation of these things to be able to say, hey, in exchange for this demolition, we have a good history of it. Also, too, I would agree to any other additional structural survey you can do. It's kind of in a paradox because you sort of offer that you could fix it, but then we're asking you to put a documentation together that says why you can't fix it. So that would be helpful to have any additional analysis. Typically, we've gotten like a home masters, or we have some other example surveys that have been done that sort of do a more detailed inventory. What else did we miss on that list? Photographs,
The architecture,
architectural description, more of a complete building survey of the condition.
why the alternatives would not make sense, you know, what your alternatives would be and why they would not be alternatives that you would want to consider.
And then part of that is, I think, you know, the history, having the staff go to the relic library. So,
And again, part of it is trying to just be consistent with what we've done, what's happened in the past, just to make sure if we've asked all of these things of one person that's had this request to do the same thing. I think from my standpoint, that makes it easier, you know, when we have these in the future too, just that we're holding everybody to the same standard. So that would be my ask. And it's one of the reasons that I joined the board was because I do love being in this town. I haven't been here certainly as long as you all were here, but for 20 years almost. And I have always liked the conversation that we would be a walking town and what that would look like in terms of the historical nature of that town. And unfortunately, because of a lot of the blight that we see, we are kind of at a point where we're losing some of that historical nature because we have new buildings and things are being torn down. But I also understand we need, you know, it doesn't make sense to have something just sit if that's not the right thing to do. So it's just balancing all of those and then looking at, you know, if that were to happen, obviously, we would be here again talking about what will go up in its place. But if we're going to go through that point, just making sure we go through all the right steps.
then if the committee's okay with it, I'll go back to the council and say, hey, you've sort of put us in a pickle. So, yes, sir.
If I may.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Just coming back to the couple points that you made, can both structures be saved? The short answer is yes. The long answer is that the older structure will need a lot of rehab. To answer the second point that you asked, are you erecting a new structure on that property? I'm sorry, can you hear me?
No, I was asking about
Okay.
the water, I'm sorry.
Are you erecting a new structure on the property? The answer is no, and that is only solely because of the building parameters and not meeting enough of the zoning ordinances. So initially when we approached the Beans and we approached the town, like I stated earlier, it was said that that second property or the second structure was legal but non-conforming as a residential use. And that is why it was suggested through the town and the town's attorney that if you take down the older structure, which would have made sense, that would then that would resolve the zoning issue, was the words in that letter, as you can see. One of the suggestions that Chairwoman King made was to get an in-depth survey. You're probably referring to someone like a structural engineer. You know, I would suggest if the town wants to do that, they can do that on their own dime. I will not do it because, again, I'm being put in a position like you suggested. The town's asked me to come in and see what we can do with this property, and I think we have taken enough of steps. I think as it stands today, the Beans are ready to go to court with the town, and I was going to come in and step in and try to see if we can resolve this in an amicable manner. So either way, I stand here. I mean, I'm okay. You know, it's your decision, but or the town's decision. So.
The other So you can certainly appreciate the position we're put in, right, where we have two bodies sort of at odds with each other. The other house, what would you have to do to the other house to bring it? Would you want to do any renovations to it? That's not really relative to this discussion, but just be curious to know if you can keep just the one structure, how do you bring that up? The question was the building permits associated with it. Do you do the upgrades necessary to make it?
Correct. So
Okay.
we'll bring it up to code,
Okay.
and we'll have a county inspector come through.
Okay.
Because just to get the permits, we'd have to get the permits through the county. Once I get the relative town permissions, then yes, we will have to bring it up to code even to get the county inspectors to sign off on that. And to answer your question, yes, it would need some work. Certainly not as extensive as the older house, but yes, it does need some upgrading.
Have you thought about I may have had this conversation with Emily, and I'm drawing a blank, but did you try for a variance? Have you thought it, did you think, or was that did you try a variance to address the non-conforming status, or?
So that was initially the plan,
Okay,
and then we ran into the roadblock of the town or the current owners could not find some of the documentation, even though they had permits. They had a statement from one of the old town council members who was on the ARB, I believe, yeah, on the planning commission. And they had several other documentation, but unfortunately in their move, and I guess there was a fire in the town, the actual plan, nobody could locate, even though it was stated by Mr. Bean that the house was designed exactly like 5 other houses that were built in this town by the same builder at that time. And Mr. Bean, working for a lumber company, he supervised and did his own work. So that's, otherwise, if it had enough of the, and to add on to that, the Beans even purchased an extra strip of land from the Gossams, who were their neighbors at that time, so that they would have that extended piece of land on the other side of the newer house that they built. But no, we did not apply for a variance. We didn't go to that step yet
because of the interim things.
And
Okay.
it's been about a year since we've come to this point today.
That's all the questions I have for now.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't believe it's our intention to make it more difficult. We're in a position where if we say, yes, here, demolish this without going through all the same steps that we've done in the past and that we would intend to do in the future, then that's something I know, because we've had that discussion before with other applicants, are you being consistent across the board? So I think that's again, I feel like we've kind of been put in a position where it's already been, the decision kind of has been made, but I would feel like we would need to follow the steps that we would need to follow in order to go through and give the final approval for the demolition.
So, does that make sense? In other words, if we've sort of set the precedent of the documentation to build the case to demolish it, we would want to be consistent. I'm sorry, I'm saying it another way. We would want to be consistent with that, so if future buildings come in, they have the same standard with which to base it. I understand your issue is that, hey, why would I put that documentation together when the preference is to not have to go through that exercise and instead bring both buildings up to code? Did I say that correctly? Okay, so our policies and ordinances support everything he's trying to do.
Right.
It's this, okay.
It's just like now, we've been going through this over a year.
Okay.
I mean, and it's just money. It's killing me. I'll have to sign the deed and give it to somebody.
Okay.
What is the time frame for all this? Because like my husband said, we have been making mortgage payments on this property that's empty, therefore we're not getting any revenue. And also, we just wrote a check for Prince William County's taxes. So, I mean,
Understood.
And we'd like to get this, I mean, can we go look at the house now?
I think we would have to schedule that, wouldn't we?
We would need to schedule it.
Yeah.
Like it.
I understand the expediency, you would want to do that tonight. Unfortunately, the way we have to notice our meetings, I think we would have to schedule it.
And also, it's a 150-mile round trip for us.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna be here. I mean, I've got documentation in my, truck of everything we've done, from the taxes claiming that it was 2 single-family dwellings on one parcel. I've got those papers.
On the first tax bill that was ever done, Prince William County, I talked to John down there, and he told me, and we came up, went to the county, and we got the paper that says, from the very first time it was assessed, 2 single-family dwellings on one parcel. And they told me it could never be subdivided, is what the town told me when I did it.
So if we could just kind of not stall.
Okay. I think, Madam Chair, if I may, Emily, I think we have 60 days with which to make our decision, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's too much.
No, that's this month, and we have to make a decision by this time next month to do that. So it will be helpful mind if I speak for the?
Go ahead.
It would be helpful for us to be able to defend a decision to support you and bring it down. It's also the policy for us to try to do what he wants to do, which is reuse both.
Well, that's what I'd
So,
like to see, if the
and-
town's the one that said it was,
Okay.
we couldn't do that.
So, we have these liaisons on each of the committees, so our work session is this next Monday, and our council meeting's the following. I'm not sure that I'll have any success, and the attorney may blow it out of the water, but if we can go back and say, hey, this situation has put us in this situation, can the council explore other opportunities or other ways with which to get us back whole? They may say we've done that already, but we at least have the opportunity to do our due diligence and be able, if ultimately it comes down, we have the documentation to bring it down. If we can come up with another solution, I think that's probably ideal for everybody. Let's try that one more time, but I don't think we're unaware of the situation you're in and the inconvenience that is causing you. So I'm sorry this is happening.
Excuse me a minute, when we came to the zoning meeting,
Okay.
they voted 5-0 in our favor. And one of the zoning members said his house wouldn't pass, zoning either, but they told him just go ahead and don't worry about it when it was built, right up here, what's that, Fayette or something like that?
Before the 80s, huh? Before we had zoning.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yep.
and I'm going, here's one of the guys saying that, they voted 5-0 in our favor, and the town attorney jumps up and starts throwing a fit. I mean, back then, it wasn't like it is now. Everybody just did stuff on a handshake. I mean, I applied for all my permits. I mean, I pleaded this case to Emily, I pleaded to the town attorney, and basically the attorney says I'm lying about it. And, I mean, that's just the best way it is. So, whatever y'all gotta do,
Thank you for working with us on it.
all right.
Well, if you could please kind of squish the.
No, it's,
I don't care.
well, I do.
Yes,
Well, I
if we
do,
can
yeah.
compress it, we will try to compress it.
Absolutely.
Procedures,
So-
I understand.
Yeah, and even just in terms of, the documentation and your, Mr. Gonsalves, your letter just in terms of the disrepair and the foundation, I think my point there, whether it comes from a structural engineer or just another professional in the field, from a kind of separation standpoint, having someone else aside from the person whose interest is at stake just make that statement, this is the kind of condition the house is in and this is the recommendation. I think from our due diligence standpoint, it's not, it would be better documentation to have that coming from someone else that doesn't have kind of a vested interest in the outcome of the property. That's my point there. So I don't expect you guys to have the expense of engaging a structural engineer. I don't know that everybody that's applied for a demolition permit has had that. But I think it would be more proper documentation, have somebody else aside from you who doesn't have vested interest say, this is why it doesn't make sense for us to do this with this particular property.
Can I make one more statement?
Of course.
Okay. The front wall in that house is damaged. When they blasted for sewer back in the seventies, that's what blew the crack in the front wall. And my mother was living there then, I wasn't, I mean, I was still paying payment, but she was living there. And she never said a word to me about it, and I didn't know until her death that it was like that. So, I mean, but when they did the sewer and water, if I'd have saw it in time, I could have had them fix it. Make them come and fix it, because all in front of that house is nothing but a solid rock there. And they were blasting to get the manhole down to get their fall for the sewer. So, I mean, that's what damaged it.
Right, and I understand your need to move this forward, so I know that we will try and do that as best as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all
We
I have.
appreciate that.
So if the board doesn't have any other questions, can you guys please state again what we would like for our follow-up meeting on August 18th at 7 PM?
We can, Madam Chair, we can first schedule a site visit.
Okay? On that evening, August 18th, everybody will be able to make it? Nope, we have one who cannot. Are the other three able to make it? And I'll check with our last member.
You can't meet the meeting, you're gonna be out of town? Okay, I'm sorry.
Is it, do we have to do the site meeting that particular evening?
No, we can schedule one beforehand. We can find a date that works for everybody
Yes.
and the applicant. Is that better? Okay. How soon? I need a minimum of 3 days to notice a meeting.
Let me look at the calendar. The calendar.
Options for next week would be, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
It would be helpful, is there, I'm sorry, sir, based on, let me ask a question. Based on Chair King's statement about not a full structural engineer, but if there's an opportunity to do some other sort of inspection, is that something you're willing to consider? Because if that's what we're, because it'd be helpful to have that, but that's a cost and expense. Those applications that have come before that have been successful in getting their demolition approved had that sort of, a little bit more of a detailed sort of survey and assessment. In your industry, are you familiar with sort of a general assessment versus a full-blown structural assessment?
Well, it all depends on what kind of person you want to survey that piece of
Oh, okay.
property, whether you want a layman or you want a professional, whether you want a buddy of mine or someone from your ARB committee walking that house with me.
Okay.
Either way, I'm okay to proceed with that. It's just that getting a professional in there is gonna cost some money. And is the town willing to bear that?
Are we willing to
I
bear
mean,
the
the
cost?
ultimate, the
Yeah.
cost of the structural engineer, because the town has approached me to resolve this situation, and
Okay.
that's, I mean, the ultimate would be if I'm able to get a legal non-conforming permit for the second structure and have both of them, that would be the,
It's a circular argument again, okay.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So then, I'll take both, and everyone,
Well, then I take
it's a
that back. We'll
win-win
just
for everybody,
Okay. We'll just do the walkthrough.
I could do any,
Next 2 weeks, the 4th would not work.
Yeah, I'll be out that week. Our next meeting's the 18th. Okay. Usually, would you be on the 11th?
No, we leave on the 6th.
The nerve. To go on vacation in
you've
August.
gone the week of the 2nd?
I'll be gone the week of the 2nd, yeah. How about you, Rob?
I'm on vacation next week, but I'm back the 3rd. I'm pretty open evenings.
Mr. Bean, are you local? I'm not sure you're not local, but are you local?
Yes, I am.
Would you be comfortable if we had to break up in twos? you want to break it up that way? Maybe, or do you want to do it all at the same time?
Whatever, because I hate to drive all the way up here,
No, just,
if that's okay with you, Bonnie.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Do you want to divide and conquer or try to do it all at once?
Would we be able to try and do one day next week? Are we all here?
Mr. Chairman, before we get any further, Bonnie's actually my coworker.
Okay.
Would this be a conflict of interest, me voting on this? Would you guys feel comfortable with me sitting in on this while knowing that we're coworkers? Just wanted to bring that up in the air before we get any further. And
You probably would have to recuse yourself from voting on this. Is that what we would?
I think normally it's, you do, if I understand correctly, and Emily, correct me if I'm wrong, do you have any sort of financial interest in this property?
absolutely not.
No relationship to, no interest in? The way I've handled this before is simply disclosing. You disclose you have that relationship and say, I have this relationship, but it does not have any sort of financial relationship to
Right.
this
No,
property,
we're just coworkers.
other than a professional relationship.
Right,
so,
professional.
Okay. Is that,
No.
that's okay?
Okay,
no.
I just wanted to,
So you would either abstain, which is you're still part of the condition, but you're concerned that the vote might say something?
okay.
If you feel like your relationship might be affected either way,
Mhm.
you know, you two would be mad at each other and be upset at work if it doesn't work. If you vote differently, then maybe you would want to abstain just for the appearance, and somehow that would be the case. Or, and then recuse is when you remove yourself entirely from the discussion. As soon as we talk about it, you leave. So
Okay.
those are your options. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Disclose, and then if you choose to abstain your vote, that is okay.
Okay.
I've done that before with my relationships to other people in town, just to clearly separate.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Next
So-
week, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if it works easier to go in groups of two, that is fine as well. We can work to coordinate and schedule that. Next week is fine, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or even Monday prior to our town council meeting. Our council meeting's at 7.
On the 30th?
On the 26th.
Oh, I'm still in August, sorry.
So since the meeting's at 7, if there was anybody available to meet, I don't know.
Suzie, would you want to meet then?
Yeah, I can make that Monday. Is that which?
Monday the 19th or Monday the 26th?
26.
I'm sorry, today's the 21st.
Monday the
Find a
26th.
way to go backwards in time.
I'm sorry, it's been that kind of week. Are
So
you
we
out
can
then?
always do the group or 2 people.
You gonna do Monday?
I'm
Would
not
Monday
going
work for
anywhere.
you, the 26th?
It's just this
At 5
staycation.
o'clock.
At 5
Okay.
o'clock?
Yeah.
Does 5 o'clock work?
Yes. Rob just said he can make,
Monday at 5? It should be.
Yeah, or after 5, well, that Wednesday, I'm open completely.
Yeah, Monday doesn't work for him.
oh, Monday didn't work for you? Okay. The 28th, I'll be here. Are you still here on the 28th, or are you out?
28th. Wednesday? Is that a Wednesday?
Wednesday?
Should be, yeah, should be good.
I can do
Wednesday?
the 20,
We can do the 28th.
28?
5 o'clock at the,
Anytime on the 28th works.
Okay.
If you want to do something during the day, because there'll be more light.
I'm on vacation. I can do it.
okay. 5 o'clock is better for me, that's because of my day job. So,
Susie, Sheridan, 5?
yeah.
we'll meet here and then walk over?
Next Wednesday.
I just have to warn everyone to make sure you get a mask. Because
Okay.
there's mold.
Okay.
26th,
28th.
20,
Wednesday, the 28th.
28th. Thank you.
So I have the 28th, July 28th, Wednesday at 5 p.m. And we will meet here in the parking lot, and then we'll walk over. In previous site visits, please wear closed-toed shoes, bring a mask, take precautions that you feel safe with. So we'll do that. I will put the notice up that we will have that meeting of the ARB. Okay, so that item is checked off. So what other items have we discussed that we would like for the applicant to follow up with us on?
We would want us to visit the Relic Library and just do any kind of research there.
Staff will take care of that prior to the next agenda going out.
And we have the land survey, that's in the packet.
We will also search our files here and provide the historic survey if it was completed in the early 2000s when the other structures in town were done.
Madam Chair, if that is not available, if the staff can identify anyone either through VDHR or some other local resource that could help us put together some sort of narrative to describe. Emily, didn't we talk about earlier today that there's somebody we may know that has the vocabulary to describe it? Okay. So sort of this phase one we're talking about that we did for all the town, just like I think I told you earlier, it's like 2 pages. It just gives a general description, writes out the dimensions, does some other descriptions. So not like a huge phase one archaeological study or anything like that.
No, I did, as a matter of fact, pull the guidelines from the town's website.
Mhm.
So I have the design guidelines, and so, sure.
In terms of complete professional photographic documentation of the exterior, is that something we'd like the applicant to do or something that we would ask the staff to do? Typically, we've done that before, it's demoed, but would your preference be if we were to consider it that we have it before, or?
I think that's to the discretion of the ARB. Typically, what we would do is either it's provided beforehand or we hold the zoning release letter until all of the items are submitted and taken in by staff.
Would there be a preference to have that before we consider whether it's a demo or not, or if we were to consider demo that we would make it part of?
If we're gonna do the site visit, I would make it, if we make the decision to demo, just having that as part of it, the exterior, because you would need the exterior before the demo happens.
Well, I think whoever does the description of it would need to have it. We're asking for that anyway, so I'm sorry, that's a ridiculous question. If we're asking someone to do the description, they would naturally take photographs of it anyway, so.
Yes. So beforehand?
Yes.
Mr. Bean, if you have anything if you have anything about the Bakers, does the Baker ring a bell for you? Was that the prior owner before your mom owned it?
We
some-
Jimmy Gossam built
Did he? Okay.
it, yeah. And then he sold it, and a man and his sister, I think it was 2 sisters, bought it. And he died in the living room, and then my parents bought it the year I was born.
Oh, wow, but the Baker name doesn't ring a bell.
Well, not to me.
Okay.
I don't know if they knew, because they were just, they were basically newlyweds too, but I mean, my dad lived right down here on Old Carolina Road,
Oh, wow.
and my mom came from up at Airlie, they lived on the old Airlie estate,
Oh, wow. Okay.
up in Park here.
So I guess if we have any, Baker rings a bell anywhere, so.
Okay.
Thank you for that, appreciate it. Any other? And then, as I said, I'll go back to the council and describe the situation that we're in, having to evaluate it based on our policies and ordinances, so. And then, Madam Chair, I guess when we do come back next month, Emily has provided us, the extent to which the builder or structure will promote the general welfare, and then lists all those specific ones that, if we were to provide findings either way, either to support demolition or not, Emily, you would probably encourage us to make some sort of statements related to each of those?
Correct.
Okay. So next month, when we get all the information together, we can make that determination. Cross your fingers, option A is possible, so.
Thank you for your time.
Are there
Appreciate
any
it.
other questions from the applicant or the board?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and we'll see you August 18th at 7 for our next meeting, but July 28th at 5 for the site visit.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate it.
Sorry,
Thank
this is
you.
the first time meeting you, so.
See the name out there, huh?
Exactly. Put a name to the face.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Drive safe.
You should make your husband call you Chair King. Chair King, it's Chair King to you.
Okay, so that is all of our agenda items.
Correct. So next order of business is old business. I'm gonna pass this out for old business, new business. What you're receiving is the proposed Haymarket Historic Overlay. This is a discussion that is currently with the Planning Commission. We will have this posted up. We will have it on our next agenda. I just wanted to kind of put it out there for the board to consider, take a look at. But this is where we are at with the Planning Commission discussion at this time.
Emily, is this pretty much reflective of what we talked about last month? Did the commission
That
make
is
any change?
correct.
Okay.
So this is kind of what was proposed several years back in a discussion between the boards and the council. And so the main goal here is that the historic overlay would be the properties that front Washington Street or the properties that are visible along our main areas of historic contributing resources or our entry and exit points in and out of town, to include Jefferson Street. We have included the majority of Fayette Street on the south side because of the historic contributing structures, to include St. Paul's, the log cabin, and the various other structures that are near St. Paul's. We have included several of the buildings that are along the north side of Washington Street on Jefferson, to include the details for the home building, as it is a contributing resource, and then those properties there that would front one of our main gateways into the town core. Same thing with Route 15 over on the other end. We have left those in the overlay district so that the Architectural Review Board would have review of the architecture and ensure that it keeps with how our town vision and gateways should be perceived.
And the commission was generally, Rob and Emily, the commission was generally supportive of this?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Bob had mentioned one of these coming off. Does that ring a bell? Or was that something he just wanted and didn't happen? That sounded bad, I'm sorry.
Is it, what was you?
You want it, but you can't have it. That's it.
Over by,
Was it Century Stair? Or the Iceplex, maybe?
Trying to think what
State
he
Farm?
said Monday
Or
night.
not the, where is it?
I will have to clarify with Mr. Weir.
I mean, I'm fine with the way it is. I was curious as to what it was that he had, thought he just said Century
We had talked
Stair.
about 2 or 3 maps that
Okay.
evening, so I'll have to go back and listen to the minutes and
No worries,
clarify.
I'm fine keeping it.
Emily,
This-
didn't he, wasn't it
Forget I said
something off
that.
Madison?
Is that
Court?
the Iceplex right there?
That's the Iceplex, yeah.
So that's not.
Oh, sorry,
on-
that's not the Iceplex,
It
that's
could have been
Durham.
something
I
on Madison.
think it might have been something on Madison Court over here.
Okay, this is, that's Century Stair, this is the,
Oh, well, that's
this is
not
the
even in
Iceplex.
the-
Sorry, my hand on messed up. And then this is the Durham, that's the,
I think originally this was all.
We might have,
warehouse.
we might have discussed why one either was or was not included, and then I think our answer might have taken care of it for him.
Okay, great.
But we'll listen back, we'll make sure that that was included. Or
Well,
discussed.
Let me put it this way, if he suggested he was taking it out, but if it was left in, that would be my recommendation, so.
We'll double check, and again, we did talk about a couple maps that night, that's why I don't want to say yes or no, it was one or the other.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
So other old business, our projects are moving along. Hotel is working diligently on their facade. Still same timeline for them on construction. And we are still awaiting for Transform Power Yoga to submit their updated site plan for comments for the Planning Commission. But otherwise, that is about everything. Dr. Moon's office has officially moved to their new location, which I guess I got to stop calling it the old BB&T building, but Dr. Moon's new building. So they're inside and they've completed their work. That is everything I have for old business, unless anybody has questions. Yes.
Any progress on the signs for the front building, for the front of this building?
I will follow up with our designer. We should have had those.
Okay, cool, thanks.
We are getting our monument sign updated, finally. Cleaning that up, getting some of our other businesses that have left the little area here removed, so that'll be changing. New business items, we are finalizing everything with the site plan for Carter School, so I'm expecting probably in September or October, we will have a package come from Carter School for the architectural review of the school building. That is located with the Van Meter property, those townhouses. And that is all right now that I know of that we will be having for new business in the immediate future.
So the Transform Power Yoga landscape plan that's going to come to us later, probably this fall.
Yes.
Okay.
We, so they submitted their first site plan. We, the town, provided our
That
comments
new,
back,
okay.
and then we're waiting on their second
Okay, thank you.
submission in.
I thought they were farther along, my bad.
Okay, I will do the planning commission update. So Rob, at each of our ARB meetings, we have a little planning commission update, so next month we'll let you take that over. But we have our liaison who filled Ayush's spot, so thank you, Rob, for stepping up. I know the board's happy to have you.
Right along with the rest of us.
As you have questions, certainly ask any of us here. We're happy to help and guide you. And for Planning Commission, we discussed the zoning ordinance on Monday night. The goal is to have the finalized draft to the Planning Commission at our August 16th meeting. And at that meeting, we would ask for the Planning Commission, if everything looks good, to set a public hearing date for the review of the zoning ordinance. So that's the only update I have for planning. Are there any questions? Nope. Okay. Town council update?
Many of the other things I remember now, I can't remember what did we do? This, at the work session, we will be discussing the park sidewalk projects. So we do have federal monies that are coming in. I believe there's also some VDOT, Emily, some VDOT monies that
We
could be
applied
available.
For VDOT grant, yes.
So we adopted, or we're getting ready, we did adopt the budget. We adopted the budget? We adopted the budget. Sorry, I haven't seen a moment. But the CIP, we're supposed to revisit the priorities for the capital improvements program. And so we were waiting on some estimates. We have the shovel-ready plan for this site. We have the master plan for the park, which the sidewalk was separate, and that's what we're getting estimates for and applying for grants for. And then there was some interest in moving the intersection improvements separately as well. So the one on Monday, I believe, or the one at the work session will be public comment on going after the dollars for the sidewalk project. And that was simply linked from the Baptist church out to Blight. So cross your fingers that will go successfully, and we'll get that underway. This federal dollars, I think we're still, Emily, I'm relying on you a lot here. Some of the federal dollars that are coming in, it's still unclear what we can use it for.
Correct.
So
Will there be, so if, in addition to the sidewalk project, I can't remember if we talked about this before, is there gonna be a more formal crosswalk from the opposite side of the street over to the park? Like
So
for your-
that's our long-term goal. What you have to do when you put sidewalks and crosswalks in, one, you have to get your sidewalk there, and then you have to justify why you need the crosswalk per VDOT standards. So one of the things we have to do is we have to make sure that we have the appropriate accessibility ramps on either side of where this crosswalk would terminate. We then have to justify the foot traffic for the crosswalk. Since the road is wider in that section, I would need to clarify with VDOT if there are any additional standards, since there is that left-hand turn lane into Haymarket Station. So once we get our sidewalk project underway, then we'll be able to better discuss. If it doesn't happen exactly at that point, hopefully we can find another point, maybe a little further down on one end or the other to make the appropriate crossing.
We had squirrels in the park building,
We did.
taken care of. We're getting porta
Somebody's
johns.
using it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Porta johns at the park soon.
Yes, we are putting up 2 porta potties for the duration of next Tuesday through the Tuesday after Haymarket Day. We have several events going on in the park this summer, and so it just worked out financially for us to do this, try it out, see how it works, see what the feedback is with the playground, and then maybe a long-term have a better idea of bathrooms at the park.
Are they the old traditional porta potties, or are they the nicer
They are
version?
not the pool behind trailer, that is very expensive
Not
to
the
rent.
bougie.
They are your traditional, and they will be cleaned starting out twice a week. If we need to increase that, we will do so. We work with a very local company, and so they're very good. They have good feedback, and they will be the first to tell us we need to up the service, so
And
we'll
then
see how that
lastly,
goes.
Emily, could you, I forgot to ask you earlier, the sunshade, we got a sunshade.
Yes.
Emily was able to,
So there was a steel delay just with manufacturing and everything, but our most recent projected time, according to our contractor last week, was mid-September. So,
this was the big we talked about that already, the big
Mhm.
canopy over the playground?
so fingers crossed, mid-September we'll have that put in, and it'll provide some nice shade for everybody up at the park.
That's all I had, thank you.
Okay. Last item.
Adjournment?
Mhm.
Would someone like to, no. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second?
A motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
Do I
I'll
have a second?
Yeah,
All right,
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 This
that
meeting is
backward.
adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. All right, that was an hour.
I know.
Are you watching Big Brother?
What?
Yes.
Ooh, you know what you guys should watch?